One moment, just 10 minutes in the sky. But those 10 minutes changed two lives forever. December, 1943. A frozen morning above Germany. When the sky didn't see enemies, it witnessed humanity. If you love stories like this, hit that like button and subscribe to Assad History, because every story here carries a lesson worth remembering. Now listen. Charlie Brown knew death was close. His bomber, shredded by bullets, limping through hostile skies over Germany. The fuselage torn open so wide you could see straight through to the other side. 11 men wounded, one already gone. The tail gunner's blood frozen across the metal floor, oxygen gone, engines barely holding. Every second felt like the last, and then, out of nowhere, a German fighter pulled up beside them. Charlie thought, this is it, this is the end. But what he saw next, none of them expected. The German pilot didn't fire. He just stared. Through the glass of the cockpit, two pairs of eyes met. A young American pilot, a seasoned German warrior. A moment of silence. Then the German raised his hand in salute and flew away. Who was he? For 43 years, that question haunted Charlie Brown. Every night, he saw that face in his dreams. The pilot who could have killed them, but chose mercy instead. When Charlie made it back to England, his commanding officers were clear. Never speak of this again. If word got out that German pilots could show mercy, it might weaken the war effort. The official narrative was simple. There are no humans inside German cockpits, only enemies. So Charlie stayed silent. He finished his tour, flew more missions, went home to West Virginia, went to college, rejoined the Air Force in 1949, served until 65, then worked for the State Department, traveled to Laos, Vietnam, retired in 72, settled in Miami as an inventor, built a new life, raised a family. But he never forgot. His daughter remembers her father waking up in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat. The war never left him. And beneath all the memories, one image always remained. The German pilot in that Bf-109 flying alongside them. Across the ocean, Franz Stigler also stayed silent. After escorting that American bomber to safety, he landed near Bremen and said nothing to his officers. What he had done was a court-martial offense in Nazi Germany. The penalty for sparing enemy aircraft? Execution. So Franz buried the secret. He survived the collapse of Germany, the chaos, the defeat, the occupation. In 1953, he moved to Canada, got married, became a successful businessman, started over, but he couldn't forget either. The B-17 with holes in its side, the wounded crew fighting to stay alive, the young pilot who looked back at him through the shattered cockpit window. Franz would later say that after that day, he lost his appetite for victory. He stopped aggressively hunting enemy planes. Seeing that broken bomber and its dying crew changed something deep inside him. For decades, both men carried the memory in silence. 10 minutes that marked them forever. 1986, Boston. A reunion called Gathering of the Eagles. Charlie Brown is 64 now, a retired Air Force colonel living in Miami. Boeing invited old fighter pilots to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the B-17's first flight. During the event, someone asked Charlie, "Any memorable missions during World War II?" He thought for a moment. Then he told the story. The crippled bomber, the German fighter on their wing, the escort to safety, the salute. Afterward, people crowded around him with questions. How had he never tried to find this pilot? Who was he? Did he survive the war? Charlie realized something. I've carried this question for 43 years. and I never seriously tried to answer it. It was time. Charlie started with official channels, contacted the U.S. Air Force, wrote to West German archives, requested records from the Army Air Force Historical Office. Surely someone, somewhere, had documentation of German pilots stationed near Bremen in December 1943. Months passed, then a year, 2 years, 3, 4. The records didn't exist, or they were incomplete, or lost, or classified. Dead end after dead end. German military archives were scattered across divided Germany. Luftwaffe records destroyed or captured by the Soviets. Finding one specific pilot from one specific day in '43 felt nearly impossible. But Charlie couldn't let it go. The nightmares continued. He'd wake up remembering the flak, the fighters, the dying crew, and always that question: who was the German pilot? In 1989, Charlie tried something different. He wrote a detailed account and sent it to a newsletter for combat pilots, American and German veterans. The letter described everything: the date, the location, the circumstances, the BF-109's markings, everything he remembered, one specific detail. The German pilot had looked directly at him, then given a salute before breaking away. Charlie sent the letter and waited. He was 67 now. 46 years had passed since that day. Maybe the German pilot was dead. Maybe he never survived the war. Maybe he died decades ago. But Charlie had to try. Meanwhile, in Vancouver, Canada, Franz Stigler was 74. He'd also attended Boeing's anniversary event in '86. The only German pilot there. A local TV station interviewed him, and he told his story. The B-17 he spared, the decision he made, the risk he took. Franz had also been quietly searching over the years. He wanted to know if the bomber made it back, if the crew survived. He contacted old Luftwaffe associations, asked around at veteran gatherings. No answers. Then in January 1990, Franz saw Charlie's letter in the Combat Pilot newsletter. He read it. The date matched, the location matched, the circumstances matched. After 47 years, Franz knew. The B-17 crew survived. They made it home. Franz sat down and wrote a letter, sent it to Charlie Brown in Miami, Florida. January 18, 1990. Charlie received an envelope from Canada. Inside was a letter that began with 4 words: I was the one. When Charlie and Franz first spoke on the phone, Franz described his aircraft. Every detail Charlie needed to confirm this was the German pilot from December 20th, 1943. Franz explained, when I pulled alongside your bomber and saw the damage, when I looked through the holes in the fuselage and saw your desperate crew trying to save each other, I remembered the words of my commanding officer, Gustav Rödel. If I ever see or hear of you shooting at a man in a parachute, I will shoot you myself. To Franz, the men in that shattered bomber were no different than men hanging from parachutes. They were helpless. They weren't a threat. Finishing them would have been murder, not combat. Franz told Charlie he tried to get them to land in Germany or divert to neutral Sweden where they'd receive medical treatment. But the Americans kept flying toward England, so Franz escorted them through the German flak positions to protect them. As they talked, something shifted in both men. Charlie's nightmares began to ease. The question that haunted him for nearly 5 decades finally had an answer. More than an answer. It had a name, a voice, a real human being on the other end of the line. For Franz, hearing Charlie's voice meant everything. For 47 years, he'd wondered if his choice mattered, if the bomber crashed, if the crew bled out before reaching England. Now he knew. They lived. All 10 men survived that mission. The 2 arranged to meet in person. 6 months later, they met in Seattle. A camera captured the moment. Franz stepped out of a car, saw Charlie, and ran to embrace him. 2 men, once enemies, held each other and wept. Franz turned to the camera and said softly, "I love you, Charlie." They spent the day talking, filling in the missing years. Charlie introduced Franz to other members of his crew, men who were alive because of Franz's choice. That December day, Franz met their children, their grandchildren, families that existed because one pilot chose mercy. The meeting was profoundly healing for both men. Charlie said his nightmares stopped after finding Franz. Franz said meeting Charlie and the crew was the only good thing that came out of World War II for him. He'd lost his brother in the war. He'd seen the Luftwaffe lose over 90% of its pilots. He'd witnessed the destruction of Germany. But this, saving these men, this was something he could be proud of. After 1990, Charlie and Franz became inseparable friends. They spoke on the phone every week. They traveled across the United States together, appeared at air shows and veteran gatherings, told their story to anyone who would listen. On one visit, Franz gave Charlie a book. Inside, he'd written, "In 1940, I lost my only brother as a night fighter. Thanks, Charlie. Your brother, Franz." The 2 families became close. Charlie's wife and Franz's wife became friends. The bond extended beyond the 2 pilots to everyone around them. Some people didn't understand. Franz received calls from Germany calling him a traitor for sparing American bombers. Some Canadian neighbors shunned him, calling him a Nazi. Franz's response was always the same: "They will never understand." For Franz and Charlie, the labels didn't matter. German or American, enemy or friend. Those were just words from a war that ended decades ago. What mattered was what happened on December 20th, 1943. When one man looked at another and chose humanity over duty. The friendship lasted 18 years. On March 22, 2008, Franz Stigler died in Vancouver, Canada. He was 92 years old. 8 months later, on November 24, 2008, Charlie Brown died in Miami, Florida. He was 86. They're buried thousands of miles apart. But their story remains inseparable. 2 men who met for 10 minutes in combat in 1943. And became brothers for the last 18 years of their lives. Their story became a book called A Higher Call. It became a bestseller, introduced their story to millions who'd never heard it. But the real legacy isn't the book or the fame or the recognition that came late in their lives. The real legacy is what Franz Stigler taught, that even in war, humanity can prevail. That you can wear an enemy uniform and still see the human beings on the other side. 47 years to find each other, 18 years together. Both died within 8 months, as if neither could exist long without the other. This isn't just a war story. This is a story about what it means to be human. If this story moved you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Assad History, because here, every piece of history carries a lesson, and every lesson comes straight from the heart. Stay tuned for more stories like this, only on Assad History.